Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today we have a movement special. We have the move deck, the one that, if you know me and most people in the Marvel Snap community, movement does not get a lot of love. It is very hard to run. It can do some decent amount of power. It can push a decent amount of power across the board, but it is a little bit harder to do that consistently. So if you compare the amount of moves, the amount of calculations that you have to do with this list versus a Shuri list, the Shuri list, it's very straightforward, 1, 2, 3. This one, you're doing 1A, 1, 2, 2B, 3C. You're doing all of these extra calculations that I think if you can master it, allows the opponent to overstay whenever they might not have the win, or allows you some room to really finesse and find ways to win that maybe other people wouldn't. I will say that as a move doubter, this one feels decent. It does take out the Magneto, so it lowers the curve a bit, but you have both your dagger, your Kraven, the cloak, the Doctor Strange as your main move components, Iron Fist, Vulture. All of those are pretty decent. And I feel like it is a necessary evil against the Shuri, against the current meta, to have an Aero and potentially a Shang-Chi. So if Shuri hits their high roll and they have Shuri and they have Cosmo or armor or something protecting on the board, you're going to have to almost rely on being able to use Aero, maintain the lead in the other two lanes so that you reveal first on that next turn, into using Shang-Chi on their big card that you pulled out of that protected lane. Those are a little bit harder to come by. But overall, the list has felt incredible in my testing. I had about a 60% win rate. For a movement deck, I think is pretty impressive. A lot of times they were 4 and 8 cube games versus the 1 and 2 because it is so rarely ran that it's hard to know exactly what they're going to do and how much they're going to be able to do in each lane. But overall, I will say that I did enjoy the movement deck. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. With the brief deck explanation out of the way, we're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, first up we have Bleach, and I actually borrowed one of Bleach's decks a couple weeks ago. It was a value deck, so I'm curious if that's still what they're running or not. So the Raft and then Kiln. The Kiln is actually okay for us. We don't struggle so much with the Kiln because we can just push our cards from the right lane over into mid. I don't know that we're going to be able to compete for the Kiln though, or for the Raft though, be able to cap it out. We have the Cloak, which right now could make them think Galactus deck. Ooh, the Superflow is also kind of unfortunate. We don't want to play cards there too early, but we also don't want to, actually. Maybe do we compete for, I don't know. We don't want to play cards into the Superflow too early, actually. Maybe we do. Do we want to? We could do Polaris, actually. How many times am I going to say actually? We're going to do Iron Fist. We're going to do Polaris. That's going to pull their Lizard over. Our Iron Fist, even though it could buff up our Vulture, is going to move our Polaris out of the Superflow. So we'll have extra energy every turn compared to what they have. That's what we're going to end up going with. They did end up snapping. But this is why I struggle with the movement deck, because there's so many avenues. Is it better value to get your 8-power Vulture, to get him started and get him enabled? I don't know. I don't know what the true right answer is. This is the last turn we can play here, though. So we have 5 energy. I think maybe we do something like this. If we need to, pushing these out on the last turn with our Heimdall is big value in the dagger, in the Vulture. It's also pretty decent power that it offers in the left lane. And so I think we might be okay. Miles Morales would be nice, or would have been nice. Not necessarily anymore. We're going to get him for his regular value. We also have Killmonger that if the opponent is running something that's very heavy on 1-cost cards, then we get some pretty good value out of it as well. So they play a She-Hulk mid and a Sunspot mid. Oof. So if this moves over, Killmonger's actually good for us, right? So this becomes 8 and this becomes 12, or 8 and then 4, so it becomes 12 here. I think we just Killmonger. Just dropping Killmonger is going to be quite a bit of value here, especially if they end up skipping or floating in energy. Had we had the extra energy from Superflow, we would have Heimdall shifted and then used our Killmonger. That way, Dagger would have got an extra +2, but I think it's all right. Killmonger is going to come down, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Oh, so the Aero pulls our card over. That's okay. We don't necessarily need it over in the left lane. It was just a comfy decision to do. And so now a Heimdall shift would move all three of these over, so we actually get a little bit more cushion here. And then it becomes, just like 17 power in the raft. Can that win? I think so. I think it can. But are they going to let it play out? Let's see. I'm not going to snap back. They snapped earlier on us when we were taking a long time to figure out our move, as we do with movement decks. So they play one card to the left. They play a Dr. Doom. So the Killmonger, I think, is what's going to be the difference. By them pulling our Killmonger to the right, I think the 2 cards from the buff from Dagger, it is the difference maker of being able to win Kiln because they pulled the Killmonger over. Otherwise, Killmonger was going to be sitting here. So their Aero placement was pretty unfortunate. Had they put us on a movement deck, depending on what they thought we were going to play, this having it pull over here would have won them the game. We will take the 4 cubes. Not a bad first start. It did come down to a misplay on the opponent's end. Not that it was a big misplay, but there was a slight inefficiency. So we're going to jump into another one, see if we can continue getting some cubes with movement deck. All right, how fitting. I have only played KrakenNull once in the last like 3 months. How fitting that as we were running, he's the main hype boy for movement decks. How fitting that when we match up to him, we're running movement. And so maybe we can beat him with his own medicine. We'll see. We're going to play Cloak into mid. We do have Killmonger. He played Hood right off the bat. Ooh, no, he's not playing Thanos. The Subterranean came down. He's playing a junk deck. So it's like a role reversal. He's playing Clog. We're playing movement. How fitting. How fitting is this? So we could, we could move the rocks out if for whatever reason we wanted to. But we don't want to. We're going to do our Widow's Bite. We're going to do a Killmonger to take care of the rocks, I think. Because we have to play the Widow's Bite so we can draw. But Killmonger early seems inefficient knowing they have a demon. I think we're just going to move a couple of the rocks. We're going to move a couple of the rocks. We have 1 space to play. We have 2 spaces to play here. And then we'll look at how to play after that. I think we want to wait until they drop their demon, though. And so they get a rock on their side. Their board is a little bit more clogged. Actually, they don't get a rock on their side. I forgot. Eternity range gets cleared. We do get the Spider-Man, the Miles Morales, from the rock movement. So we will absolutely take that every single time. Maybe Miles and then Doctor Strange to the right. We could maybe skip next turn. We could drop our Killmonger early. But we're not going to... Yeah, we're going to faux cap it out, but we can skip at any point to clear those rocks. As long as this location remains, we also have the Killmonger to use as well. So the Bishop and the Demon. So is this maybe not a Clog deck, but instead a bounce deck? Now that he has dropped the Demon, finally, we can do our Killmonger, and then we're also going to support the middle location with our Iron Fist. Let's see if we get lucky. We haven't drawn any of our big move cards, our Vulture, our anti-move players, our Dagger or Craven. So we're not in a phenomenal spot here, unfortunately. The Bast does come down, sets their hand to 3. So could be a Hawk. They pull up their Bast to help support this one. It could be a Hawk that they have. And we have initiative. So we now have the Vulture to lean in on. Because we played Iron Fist last, but I don't think that's enough. They could do anything here, so they're Bast and then a Vulture to the left, and we're going to lose. We didn't get our movement components early enough to make use of them, unfortunately. We are supporting the middle location, but he plays the Ronin in the left lane. Almost not quite enough, but we do lose to the movement man himself. I'm a little bit disappointed that he's not running move, but maybe next time. We didn't draw our good resources. We stuck it out because it is the move hype man himself, Kraken. Next time. We'll get you next time, Kraken. All right. Next up we have Erosin. The first location is Shadowland. So we get the negative ninjas there. We get our Dagger relatively early, and they snap on us. I'm guessing they probably have Shuri. They snap on us. We don't have a way to counter their Shuri play. It's one of the downsides of running anything that doesn't have a Cosmo. or a really heavy movement component. We would have to rely on Aero, but if they have a Cosmo that comes down, it becomes very difficult to find your ways to win. But I think we're gonna dagger in the far right lane. Ooh, it looks like we maybe should have daggered in mid. Are they running a junk deck maybe? We'll see if that's what they're running. So dagger here would have been able to buff up quite a bit from the cards that are in the opponent's lane. We have the Killmonger, but they armored it. They armored this location. We're also not going to reveal our cards this turn. So let's go ahead and do Killmonger. Not going to reveal. Next turn, we're wanting to keep our curve low, so like a cloak comes through. We could do cloak and Kraven. Maybe we do something like this. The cloak would allow us to do dagger and Kraven. Both would get buffed up by +4 currently. And then if we get a Doctor Strange to pull them out, great. If not, we've used our cloak on that movement. But I think we need to make sure we're pushing it early. Now, well, so they have a Shuri that they played. I think we're going to do this. And then we're going to arrow to the right. That way we maintain the lead here and here. Now, if they skip for the She-Hulk, that's unfortunate. Otherwise, we're going to have the lead so we can just do a Shang-Chi. Along with like a Miles Morales, maybe an Iron Fist as well, to find a way to win. I assumed that they would do their big play here. And so we are... How much does it get? It gets buffed up by that undiscovered card, and then afterwards we pull it out. And so we have a decent lead here, not so decent here. But I think depending on if they're going to do a Taskmaster or not, we're in a pretty good spot. An Arnim Zola, we're still in a pretty good spot. They have to overcome this lane and this one. That's unfortunate though. So a Taskmaster here and then a Titania. Oh, they can't Titania here is our only upside. So actually, I think we're fine in Hellfire Club. Maybe not. How they do 2 cards, unless they didn't do a Taskmaster. Taskmaster and then their 1-cost card shouldn't... Okay, so they Taskmaster here. And then Titania here? No, 0 to the left. 0 to the left never does it. We win the left, we win the right. We get our 4 cubes off of the Shuri play, just based off of the Aero. That one comes down to Aero, and if you have it or not, being able to move that alongside having initiative for your Shang-Chi. We will take it though. We're not going to knock it. We're going to take the 4 cubes. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Savo 4. The first location is Dream Dimension. We have our Iron Fist, we have Cloak, we have Kraven. I think we're going to skip this turn, even though we have the Iron Fist we could use. I think we're going to play Kraven on 2. I don't know if that's perfect either, but that's what we're going to do. I almost want to just drop Iron Fist on turn 2. That way we can really start enabling the Vulture a little bit earlier. But I'm a resident overthinker when it comes to move. We do now have Doctor Strange. So the Kraven is decent. We can do Vulture. Next turn, we could do maybe a Doctor Strange and an Iron Fist. I don't know. We're gonna try to play this a little bit faster than we normally do because I'm god awful slow at playing it. So let's do the Doctor Strange, pull the Vulture over. That's gonna help us a little bit here. We're also gonna support it with the Iron Fist. Next turn, Dagger is gonna move depending on where the opponent has cards. So we have a decent advantage there. We also have Cloak to help enable our Kraven, our Vulture, our Dagger, depending on what we need. We'll see. We'll see. I think we're still going to be able to do both Dagger and Miles Morales. Oh, the Master Mold. We don't have enough cards that it's not necessarily going to disrupt us any. It just gives us a couple of cards to look at. So we pull over our Vulture. We lose this lane by 1. We almost had the extra resources, which would have hurt their Hawk quite a bit. Oh well, it is what it is. So we played the Iron Fist last. We could Dagger and Miles Morales. That's going to move Dagger over. She gets a small buff here. Maybe we juke him out. We do a Cloak. We could do a Cloak here. It moves to this lane. We can move our cards into this one if we want to. We do our Miles Morales in mid. I think I need to just start going with my gut with movement. It's one of those that I think is going to just take a lot of games to figure out like the optimal play lines. So Cloak, we will be able to move cards into mid because this is where he ends up staying. Ooh, so the second Master Mold, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that does end up capping us out. You have to break your play order, but I guess it's decent. So if they have a Ronin now, they could play it, but does it get them what they need? So Killmonger is going to take out 2 power here, but it also takes out 2 power here. I think we move our Cloak, we move our Iron Fist. So we're pushing for here and here. And then we're not going to play our Sentinels because we want to clear that hand space as much as we possibly can. So if they I assume they're going Ronin here. And so that way their Hawk's not very big because it kind of splits that focus. So I'm going to move here to buff up our Kraken some. We're going to keep our big resource in this right lane. We want to try to overcome the Hawk. Now, if they just go with a Rock Slide, that might be enough to get them what they need. But we'll see. We're going to absolutely see if that's how it pans out. So the Ronin to the left, yeah. So it is the split focus of the Hawk and Ronin, but doesn't... It becomes clunky towards the end. I have tried using the Master Mold in this build, and it while fun, it doesn't always get you what you need, because now all we are sitting at looking at our Sentinels. That is 2 cards that didn't disrupt our draw, except it disrupted our draw once. But then you have the 5 power that you use 2 turns on into the Ronin to help enable the Ronin. And without that, it wouldn't have been very big anyways. But for an 11 power turn 6, you have several others that can do more than that a little bit easier. So we will take the 4 cubes. That one feels good. As a skeptical move man, that one feels good. Let's go ahead and take the 4 cubes and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Winter, and we just lost to Winter just a second ago. They're running a Shuri deck. Our Heimdall comes down right off the bat, which is unfortunate. They ran the Shuri. We didn't have our Aero. We did have Shang-Chi, but we grabbed initiative going to the last turn, so we couldn't even try to counter their Taskmaster play. And then with Cosmo and Wakanda, if they have those 2 cards, it's going to be pretty difficult for us to win. We're going to dagger into the left lane. We know that we have the cloak to help enable it. We'll see. We'll see. And then the cloning vats was also in the last game, which is so strange. They did double sunspots. We killmongered them, but we still couldn't overpower the Shuri into Red Skull into a potential Taskmaster. We retreated before the Taskmaster came down. I think we're going to Vulture this turn. Next turn we can Kraken and Cloak and move some of our cards around. We might even Cloak into the right lane. I don't know. We'll see. Cloak into the right lane. That way we can get an additional Cloak. We're going to do it. We have the Kraken, we have the Cloak. We can move them over to the right, play a second Cloak to move them back over to the left. On turn 4, they ended up going with Zero and Lizard. So, decent. That's decent for us. That means they didn't have Shuri in hand. That is one of our biggest downsides with running this deck. So we move these over. This becomes decent powered. This starts enabling here. I think we're gonna do the second Cloak, but let's do a Vulture as well. That way we can decide if we want to move this Vulture, this Vulture. We have a bit of flexibility on where our power comes from. They didn't move any of their cards, which makes sense. Knowing that we had the Kraken and Dagger, I wouldn't have moved mine either. But they do play a Red Skull into mid, and a still ability intact Red Skull. So they can move their cards over. Here it gets a little bit dicey, right? We can do Kraken, we can do a Dagger, we can do a Vulture, and then do we do something like this? We pull their cards over with our Aero. I don't think we win this lane, so if we are not fighting for the right lane anyways, let's move this Vulture. This Dagger, this Kraken, we Aero, we left lane. It gives us more power here, the same amount of power in mid, and then we're hoping to win the cloning vats. They do end up retreating. I really wish I could have seen that one come off, but since the Shuri deck was not able to draw their Shuri, they weren't able to find the win. So once the kind of high roll that this deck provides, I think maybe moves in a little bit better state. But we faced some decent decks, some Shuri decks, a few others that are pretty cohesive, and we were able to find wins in a lot of them. What I will say with move is that a lot of times it's going to be 4 and 8 cube games versus your 1s and 2s, and so you need to either play it conservatively. Most of the time your opponent's going to snap because once they see move, it is perceived as relatively weak. But we're going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.